Hello and welcome to this Astranti YouTube video. Today's YouTube video is about the operational case study, the February 2022 sitting, and we're going to be looking at some of the feedback that we've got from students, some of the survey responses that we've received about this OCS exam. So we sent out a survey to students who sat the OCS in February 2022, and in this video we're going to be looking at the results of that survey, looking at what the students said, what they found difficult, what they found a bit more easy, and what they would recommend to future students for the OCS exam. So this is going to help you to prepare for your exam, to learn from their experiences in order to help you prepare even better for your OCS exam. So starting out with the exam difficulty. Overall, how difficult did students find the exam? And we can see here that 36.4% of students found the exam more difficult than they expected. And although this is a smaller proportion than those who found it as expected or easier than they expected, this is still a significant portion of students who found the exam fairly challenging. And so we need to take away from this that the OCS exam can be a bit of a shock to a lot of people when they take it for the first time. It's certainly a different task to the OT exams, and so you have to be aware that the OCS exam is going to be challenging, so it's really important that you are fully prepared to take it on. So let's have a look here. We can see how difficult did non-Astranti students find the exam, and 45.2% of non-Astranti students found the exam more difficult than they expected. This is out of the students that we have surveyed. And moving on, we can see with regards to Astranti students that we surveyed, only 15.4 found it more difficult than they expected, whilst 84.6 found it as expected or easier. So we can conclude from this that with regards to the students that we surveyed, Astranti students found the exam much easier than students that did not study with Astranti. We offer a wide range of products that are going to help you prepare for your OCS exam, varying from an in-depth pre-scene analysis, including a strategic analysis and a top 10 issues video regarding the pre-scene. We also do an industry analysis content, analyzing the wider industry that is relevant to the pre-scene, as well as our range of objective test exam resources that are going to help you to know the theory and make sure your theory is really on point going into the exam. So moving on, exam difficulty versus expectations. We can see here, as we've already discussed, a sizable amount of students, 31.8% finding the exam more difficult than their expectations, and 4.5% finding it much more difficult. So really, we just need to take away from this that the OCS exam is no easy task, and so it's really important that you prepare for it as much as you can. So what went well during the exam? You can see this graph shows which aspects of the exam students felt went well, and the parts of the bar that are in blue, those answers come from students that found the overall exam as expected or easier, whereas the red sections of the bar, those answers come from students that found the exam more difficult. And you can see here that theory knowledge and time management are the two bars that stick out the most. So these are potentially the key factors in your success in the OCS exam. 34.1% of students found that the theory knowledge went well. The theory knowledge was the main point that they took away from the exam that helped them achieve their results. And 25% highlighted time management as something that went particularly well. So moving on to our next graph, we can now see in more detail the discrepancy between students that found the exam overall more difficult and the students that found the exam overall as expected or even easier. And I think the one that sticks out here is with regards to time management. Students that found the exam as expected or easier were much more likely to highlight time management as a strength of their performance, whereas those that found the exam a little more difficult highlighted theory knowledge as something that they felt was a strength of theirs during the exam. So this just highlights how important managing your time really is. The students that found the exam easy or as expected reported that they managed their time really well. So managing time is something you should definitely make a key part of your revision. Moving on to what could have gone better during the exam. And here it's a similar story. We can see time management and theory knowledge are the two topics which students generally felt could have gone better. 38.64% of students reporting their time management could have been better, and 31.82% reporting that their theory knowledge could have been better. There's also 20.45% of students that saw planning and structure as an aspect of their exam that could have been better. So these are perhaps the key areas to focus on with regards to your revision. So here we can see once again the discrepancy between those that found the exam more difficult and those that found the exam as expected or easier in a little more detail. And we can see the real discrepancy is once again with the time management. Those that found the exam more difficult, they were 50% of those students highlighted time management as something that could have gone better. So really focus your studies on time management. Make sure you've done some mock practice, practiced writing under time conditions. These are things that are going to really help you to achieve what you want in your OCS exam. Also, a slight discrepancy with regards to the theory knowledge. Those that found the exam more difficult also highlighted theory knowledge. They were slightly more likely to highlight theory knowledge as something that could have gone better, whilst those that found the exam as expected or easier were more likely to highlight planning and structure as something that could have gone better. So they were perhaps a little more brushed up on their time management and theory, so they were more focused on planning and structure as something that could have gone better in order to perfect their answers. So let's move on to the next graph. In hindsight, what would you have spent more time revising? And a lot of students here, 54.55%, highlighting mock practice as something they wished that they'd spent more time revising. We at Astranti have a range of mocks that you can practice on in order to prepare yourself for the OCS exam. And this is something that's going to be really key to your success in the exam because they replicate the real thing. So they're going to get you used to the structure of the exam and what kind of things you might expect from the unseen material. Also, time management at 52.27%, once again, a very key thing that people wish they'd spent more time revising. Theory knowledge at 50%, so half of the students that took the OCS exam wish they'd had more theory knowledge. It's important to remember when you're doing case study exams that whilst knowledge of the case study is, as always, really, really important and applying that, it is important to be hot on your theory knowledge and make sure that you have knowledge of your P1, E1 and F1 topics in order to write about them in the exam, because at the end of the day, this knowledge will make up the bulk of your answers to the question. So let's take a look at the breakdown between students that found the exam more difficult or those that found it as expected or easier. So time management, again, a big discrepancy here. The students that found the exam more difficult were more likely to say that they should have spent more time on time management, likewise with theory knowledge and likewise with mock practice. Although, as we've discussed, these three areas are areas where most students felt like they should have spent more time revising these areas. It's interesting to note that with regards to students that found the exam as expected or easier, they were more likely to highlight industry examples and the pre-CIMA application as areas where they wished they spent more time revising. And these are the areas which are key to accessing those higher marks in the exam. The industry examples and applying your knowledge to the pre-CIMA is what can elevate your results from a mid-level result to a high-level result. So it's no wonder that students that tended to be better prepared were more likely to highlight these areas as aspects they should have spent more time revising, whereas those that found the exam more difficult, it tended to be the time management and the theory knowledge that they wish they brushed up on a little more. So which aspects would they have spent less time revising in hindsight? Well, industry examples are the key thing. And as I've touched on, industry examples, they're not necessarily an essential component of your answers in the OCS exam, but they are going to help you to really access those higher, those top tier marks. And so a lot of students felt like they should have spent less time on these industry examples and maybe more time focusing on time management or theory. We can see time management theory knowledge as well as mock practice. very few students regretted spending time revising these areas. So here's the breakdown. What would they have spent less time revising? Industry examples, we can see slightly a higher percentage of those that found the exam more difficult, choosing not to revise as much time on industry examples in hindsight, and 0% of those that found the exam as expected or easier regretted devoting time to mock practice, which shows how important mock practice really is to success in these case study exams. So let's now finish up with looking at some student quotes that we've received about the exams and see what we can draw from these. So think about the knowledge in the context of possible scenarios. So when you are revising your theory, think about what kind of context this theory could come up in. If you've watched the pre-scene analysis from Astranti, this is really going to help you to do this because we talk about loads of potential scenarios that are relevant to the pre-scene in which various objective test topics could come up in the case study exam. Plan your answer before you start writing. Whilst it is important to focus on time management and not spend too much time planning your answer, if you plan your answer before writing, this is going to be really helpful in terms of structuring your answer. This is going to make it easier on the examiner and help you to score higher in your case study exam. Next up, we have always practice mock exams, even if it is on the areas you don't particularly like, and always apply to the case study. So once again, talking about applying to the case study, making sure that you're not just talking theory, thinking about how that theory is relevant to the unseen material and relevant to the wider pre-scene as a whole, and a focus on mock exams. We've discussed this a lot in this video, but mock exams are really going to get you used to the structure of the exam, so there's no surprises when you actually go to take the real thing. And lastly, we have do timed mock exams. I had no idea how time pressured it was, as I'd never done a timed mock. So we can learn from this student's mistakes. Make sure that when you are doing mocks, you time yourself and make sure that you are completing all your answers within the time limit. The OCS exam, there is a lot of time pressure in the exam. There's a lot of tasks for you to do, a lot of unseen material to read, and you have to focus on the pre-scene as well. So it's really important that your time management skills are on point going into this exam. And so that's all the responses, all the graphs that we've had back from our student survey. I hope you found this video really helpful. And if you want to access the range of materials that Astranti provides for the OCS case study, as well as the objective test exams, head over to the Astranti website, where you can find all of these materials and all of the materials that I've discussed in this video. And with that, we have come to the end of the video, unfortunately. Now, if you want to see the full course, you can visit the Astranti website, where you can sign up for a free membership, which is going to give you access for 1 week to the full course and a mock exam. Now, we update this channel twice a week, so make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more CIMA content in a similar vein to this video. And now, in addition to that, you can find us on social media. Our links will be in the description below, as well as on screen. And you can also join our Facebook study group, where you can ask questions and discuss the course content with your fellow students. Now, we hope to see you in a future video. Thank you very much.